Dear friends, this is our VPC devotional for Monday, August 14th, and we're going to be looking at some wonderful verses today from Matthew chapter 4 and also Matthew chapter 9. We're going to look at two different instances where Jesus called folks to follow him and try to put those in a little bit of context. So I encourage you to get your water, your juice, your coffee, or your tea. Usually I'm a tea guy, as you know if you know these devotionals, but I think I've had my daily allotment already today, so we're gonna drink a little water. Let's take a moment and turn our attention now to Matthew 4, verse 19, where Jesus says, "Follow me." He said, "Follow me" in this little passage, first to Peter and Andrew, who were mending their nets, and they left their nets and they followed him. And then he also said it he walked along a little further along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, and which is really a lake, a limne more than a thalassus, a sea, and it's about 13 miles in length and about 8 miles in width. So it's a considerable body of water, but not really a sea. At any rate, he continued along the shore of Galilee, and he called James and John, who were brothers. They were in their boat with their father Zebedee, and they left the boat and their dad and followed him. And so this was a call to follow. I joked a little bit on Sunday about the fact that I wasn't a very good student in driver's education. I love the academic subjects, and I looked at driver's education as kind of a chance to relax a little bit and not work very hard, because pretty much everybody passed. That's where driver's ed was. And the key thing was how you actually did in your driving test rather than what you were doing in the classroom. And I wish, looking back, that I had paid more attention, particularly to the lessons about safe following distance. Later on in my driving career, I had some incidents and some accidents that I probably could have avoided if I knew the 3-second rule. You know the 3-second rule? We count 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. And over those 3 seconds, we were able to measure the distance between ourselves and another car and get into a distance that's long enough, that's distant enough that we won't run into them if there's an accident ahead of them or if they have to brake suddenly. And when you use that by a fixed object and then counting to see they passed it, how long does it take me to pass it? So I didn't pay attention to that. I didn't realize it takes, it was 10 times as long to stop a car by the time you react, and the weight is slowed down, the physics of that stopping than I would have anticipated if you'd asked me. And so I wish I'd known what safe following distance was in cars before I had an accident or an incident. But it's interesting. It's just a reverse in our discipleship relationship with Jesus. We want to be as close as possible. We want to be the equivalent of that annoying driver that is right on your tail, right up on your bumper. We don't want to drive that way, but we want to be disciples that way. And in fact, the invitation that Jesus issued when he asked them to follow me was an invitation to intimacy. In the first century, you didn't have like formal schools where you go and take lectures. You wanted to learn, you needed to find a teacher, a master, a rabbi, and it was an all-in situation. You didn't just hang out now and then and listen to the words of wisdom and take notes. Instead, you went to live with the master, and it was always the case that the pupils were seeking masters, were asking masters, "Can I join your company of disciples?" In this instance, Jesus reverses it, and he is asking the disciples to join. He's moving first. In the Gospel of John, he says, "Remember that you didn't choose me, you didn't ask me, you could join my company. I invited you. I issued the invitation." And so, of course, it required a response, but Jesus took the initiative, and it meant intimacy. It meant closeness. It's a call when we follow Jesus that's different than other ones. We are like disciples with their master. We're called to give up the lead. Oftentimes when we're sitting in a class, we want to get what we need from that class, from that professor, whether that's a certain kind of grade or a certain sort of information that we might need later in our lives. But it's a bit of a transactional relationship. And once the class is over, the teacher doesn't have any authority for us. But it would be different in the first century. You were accepting the authority of the teacher in your life, and you were wanting to model your life after your teacher. So it's like you have a new king in your life, a new sovereign who is going to begin to direct your life. And so it's a partnership, yes, but it's a partnership with a clear precedence. Is that the way it's worked for you? Let's take some time and pray. Lord, you 13 times in the Gospels asked someone to follow you and called those people to intimacy, to connection, and to friendship, but also to a new sovereignty, a new precedence in their lives where they would learn to find the direction of their life by consulting you and imitating you. And so we acknowledge that your wisdom is deeper than ours, and your heart is wider, and we want to exhibit, as your disciples, a true submission to follow where you lead, and in that find a perfect freedom. We ask this in your name. Amen.